there.
Right.
So we were just chatting basically, waiting for our audience. So we'll start off with, I guess, with our overview, and we're going to record it as well for the people who I think were interested to come today but weren't able to come in person at this time. So okay, so I'll just start by sharing my screen. Okay, can you see the slides?
I can.
Yeah, super. Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is just a very brief overview. It'll be from me and Charlie. So I'm the Emily Permane Institute Manager for the Institute for Data Science and AI. And Charlie is one of our research fellows who will be talking about halfway through about his project that he's currently working on, and so it'll be quite a good example of one of the type of projects that you could work on. So to give an overview, first of all, I thought I'd start with giving an overview of IDSAI itself. So it was established in 2018 and is intended to be the hub for data-intensive science and AI across the university. So we work with all the different faculties, and we really want to just make sure that we develop innovative approaches to using data and AI in modern society. And obviously the scope for that at the moment is just, growing massively all the time. So we carry out some basic research in advanced data analytics from foundations and method development, but also including wider ranging applications. And we're also the focus for EXA's membership of the Alan Turing Institute. So we have a number of different research themes, which you can see on the website. And they're the sort of areas that we particularly focus on, but they cut right across the whole university and all the different strengths that we have in different areas related to data science and AI. So about the research awards, what we are able to offer essentially is time for the research fellows to work on your project. So we fund a project that lasts for about 6 months, and it's at the rate of 0.5 FTE of a research fellow's time. So you get Charlie or one of his colleagues to work on your project for that length of time, and there's also a small amount of money for associated research costs if you need it, or that could be associated with any lab costs that you might have, but also maybe data costs, data storage, or anything else to do with handling the data science side of the project. So what we're looking for in the projects is an interdisciplinary project, which will be able to look at ways of using data science and AI in a different way from in a way that enables the science that you're doing to take a different approach. So we're not looking to do something that requires performing routine data analysis, but if there's novel ideas that you've got about ways in which you think you could use data science and AI as a new technique in the area that you're working, then that would be really interesting. So the sort of outcomes that we're looking for might be, say, a new pilot data or algorithm to underpin future applications for funding. So obviously one of the things we really like to see is if this pilot funding can then enable you to put in a more significant application for funding at a later stage with UKRI or somebody like that. We're looking for transfer of skills and knowledge, so that across the whole of the team working on the project, people working in data science and transferring skills to other parts of the university, as well as back to the data scientists as well, and to IDSAI. And we want to expand the broader data science and AI community within Exeter. So eligibility essentially is we're looking for 2 PIs from different disciplines. And we can also include external organisations. So if you have relationships with say charities or policy organisations or other universities that you want to involve as well, then that's also perfectly fine, and we'd be interested to see those projects. And particularly with some of the funding that we've got, it's useful to be able to include some of the projects that have knowledge exchange applications. So in this particular call, we're looking for ideally 2 applications to be funded, which do have that knowledge exchange approach included within it. So that is the end of my slideshow. So I'll hand over to Charlie now. I think he'll probably share his slides as well. So if I stop sharing.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm actually not able to share my screen.
Sorry, Charlie, let me give you access.
Okay.
I can. Helen, are you able to do this for Charlie? Because I don't know if I don't seem to be able to give him ability to share his screen. Or I can share the slides. That's the alternative.
Yeah, well, if you want, you could just share them. I sent you my most recent one.
Yeah. Charlie, I've just given you permission to be a co-host, so you should be able to do it now.
Okay, thanks.
Great.
Are you seeing PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, well, so I was only going to talk for really just a few minutes about this. So this is one of the CCORN projects that we've been working on in the current round. And well, it's quite an exciting one, or it has sort of nice looking figures associated with it. So maybe it's a good accessible one to talk a little bit about. So basically this is about using machine learning to map beneath Greenland's ice sheet and reveal the basal topography of Greenland. And this is a project that was proposed by Steve Palmer in geography, and he was, the proposal came in collaboration with Chumbo Lo, who is in computer science, and I've been working on it as the IDSAI research fellow. So this project basically combines, remote sensing data from satellite imagery, which we've got covering all of Greenland. So for example, this figure here is just a map of the surface elevation of Greenland. And you can see that the kind of majority of Greenland is this ice sheet, which in the elevation data looks, fairly smooth in this figure, at least. And yeah, we really want to know what the bottom of the ice looks like as well, which is obviously much harder to know because it's hidden by quite an extensive depth of ice. But there are a lot of observations of ice depth that have been collected across Greenland, and these have been collected by basically airborne surveys. So aeroplanes have been flying. You can see the flight lines here on the figure. Aircraft fly these flight lines and collect more data every year, basically. So this is showing something like 20 years worth of data collection across Greenland. And this amounts to over 30 million observations using the radar instrument that measures then the depth of ice beneath the aircraft. And the kind of solid red line we have here on this figure is actually also, I think, airborne radar observations, but this is a kind of a different data set that we've been talking to the lead author of a previous study, trying to work out what's the best way to try and evaluate this kind of map of Greenland ice depth. And his suggestion was to use that data set. So that's in there as well now. Anyway, so yeah, the challenge is to interpolate between about 30 million airborne radar observations of ice depth. And to do that, aided by information contained within satellite imagery, which includes the surface elevation, but also ice flow directions and ice flow rates, basically trying to incorporate clues from the ice's surface that might give us, an indication of the depth of the ice. So I just mentioned the flow angle and the flow speed of the ice, I think. So these are also kind of satellite collected data sets that we have all across Greenland, in combination with the surface elevation. So these are the kind of what we could consider to be covariates that might help us in the challenge of mapping Greenland's ice depth. So it turns out then if we use some machine learning, and there's many different methods that we could be using, but here we're just using a random forest actually, which was kind of the first place to start. So that's what I've got here. But things might become more complicated with time, as in we might try more specialized approaches. But here, if we use a random forest, then we're able to kind of ingest all of those millions of observations, and use that algorithm then to make predictions of the ice depth all across Greenland. So that allows us to go from this kind of structure of flight lines, observations in flight lines, to then a continuous map of ice depth across Greenland. And if we then subtract the map of ice depth across Greenland from the surface elevation, then that reveals actually the subglacial topography of Greenland, which I think is I find this really exciting, not being a glaciologist, but it's really exciting that you can use these kind of methods to see beneath the ice, basically. So actually in 2017, there was a previously published approach, which used a combination of geostatistics for the interior of the ice, and then a mass conservation approach around the edges of the ice, where the effect of ice flow is maybe more significant, and you want to try and preserve the mass of ice that is flowing. So a kind of a physics-based approach, which had been used previously. But Steve's proposal was then to ask the question, well, can we actually just use machine learning to kind of do this, and how would that compare? So in the scatter plots I've got at the bottom of the slide here, these are just evaluating both method of map using the solid red line on the previous figure here, the solid red line, which was from an airborne survey that wasn't included in this previous physics-based approach, which was called bed machine, and has also not been included in our machine learning approach. So if we compare the kind of results that we get on there, then actually the methods seem to be quite similar at the moment. But of course, this is all work in progress anyway. But we do find that the random forest has a bit of a reduced root mean squared error on the predictions. And also, although it's more subtle to see, and I don't think I can point at it either, but in the lower range of ice depths that get predicted here, it looks a bit like the physics-based approach, bed machine, is under predicting the depth of ice in these shallow ice depths, whereas perhaps the machine learning approach here is a little less biased in those low depths of ice. Anyway, this is all stuff that we're obviously looking into more and more, and thinking about ways forward that we can improve the model, basically, and also how we can incorporate kind of our prior knowledge into the modeling setup as well. And in this project, we haven't just been kind of working in isolation anyway. We've actually been talking to the lead author of this bed machine paper. So that is Matteo Morligam. So it was really interesting to be able to have those conversations and then talk about how machine learning might be able to, potentially do better, or maybe it will end up doing worse, who knows. But anyway, how we can compare the existing kind of physics-based approach to the machine learning approach. So I've spoken maybe a little bit too long even on that, but yeah, so it's quite interesting. So this one here is the bed machine map, the kind of physics-based approach map of basal topography. And this is our machine learned random forest-based map of basal topography. And yeah, they don't look massively different, but there are some more subtle differences. Well, basically the kind of difference in maybe the bias in the low depths of ice that I mentioned before. Anyway, so this is all work in progress, but it's an overview of quite an exciting project that uses, 30 million, or actually over 30 million observations. So it's a very big data set, and we're trying to use machine learning to, go beyond, or at least compare apples to apples with what's been done before. So yeah, that's that project. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie. That's really good. So yeah, Charlie's given an overview of a project there, working with colleagues in geography, but we've worked with people from all the other faculties as well, people in the area of health data science, or in humanities and the digital humanities side, and psychology. So we've had quite a range of different projects already in the past.